Friends, Shabbat Shalom. I'm going to take my mask off while I'm here, far away. I have to say, Ruthie and Debbie, I think because my name also ends in that sort of sound, you could have told me it was denim jacket night. I have one. But, it's fine. I was just saying you and Ruthie could have both told me that it was denim jacket night. It's fine. Maybe next time. I have one. I still have the one that I got for my 16th birthday. All right, Shabbat Shalom. So nice to be here with everyone. I am going to start with a prayer from this amazing book by friend and poet Alden Salovey. This one's called Receiving Blessings. Ancient One, open my heart to receive the blessings around me, kindness and wisdom, friendship and understanding, tenderness and compassion, moments of holiness, messages from heaven. Source and shelter, open my heart to bless others with the fullness of my being, with joy and thanksgiving, from a hope for healing and a pulse of love, to fill the world with benedictions. Rock and Redeemer, open my heart to welcome the blessings around me, a fountain of grace to fill my soul, with gratitude and courage, with wonder and peace. We are going to continue by lighting our candles. The candle blessing is on page 121. If you'll join with me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We continue on page 123 with Kiddush. It is our congregation's custom to rise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kadsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu Zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh zecher letziat Mitzrayim kivanu v'chartav yotanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha b'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Fine. You can be seated. What? It's grape juice this week. I know. Made me happy. Okay, we will continue on page 142 welcoming Shabbat with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ba'achem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We continue on page 144 with the Chatzi Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadal Shemei Rabbah, B'alma divrach yirtzeh v'yamlich malchuteh, B'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chayetecho Beit Yisrael, Bagala, Bagala, uvizman kariv, v'yamaru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach, le'alam lo me'omaya, yitbarach, yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitramam, v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, Shemei Kudisha, Brichu, Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, Tushbechata v'nechemata, Damiram v'yama, v'yamaru, Amen. We rise on page 146 for Baruch. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. We'll remain standing for Shema on page 152. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. You can be seated. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'otecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ela asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta b'ham b'shivtecha b'betecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before we ever stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Micha is on page 158. Ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 la. Okay, we're going to start again. And I need some more enthusiastic woos, right? We're not wooing halfway here tonight. Ready? Ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh Nora tehilot osefela, Nora tehilot osefela. Malchutecha ra'u vanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe Miriam. Ze Elianu v'amru, Ze Elianu v'amru, Adonai Le'olam va'ed, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. V'na'amar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov, u'ga'alo miyad chazak mimenu, Baruch ata Adonai ga'al Yisrael. Praised are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Page 161. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch ata Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. We continue on page 162, Vishamru. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, Lasot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam berit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. I just noticed something that I've noticed before but haven't really ever thought about in this way. If you read a word in the Torah and the word is doubled, if there are 2 next to each other, some people think that it was transcription error, that someone was writing the whole Torah and got exhausted and wrote the word a second time, but many people think that when there's a word doubled in the Torah, it means that word very much, right? That instead of using the word very much, the doubled word means whatever word it is, there's an emphasis. And so I was just thinking about the person who wrote the music to Vishamru. The words Shabbat vayinafash, you should rest and be refreshed, are only written once, but the person who wrote the music had them repeated 3 times. So I think that wish is perhaps that person really, really needed some rest, or perhaps that musician wished all of us and everyone who would sing that song later a great deal of rest. We are going to continue on page 164 with the tefillah. We will pray together as a community until page 170, and then continue quietly to ourselves until page 178 with the prayers on the page or the prayers that are in your own heart. If you would please rise, page 164. Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Leah, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, V'gula livnei v'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo b'Ahava, Melech Ozer, Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, V'chayei hakol, Rav le'Hoshia, Morid hatal, Mechakel chayim מברך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. If you're continuing to pray, please do so. Otherwise, please join me on page 178, Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'enecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. You notice that I stopped for a minute in the tefillah, and what ends up happening, I was at a shiva on Wednesday, and the rabbi of Beth Emet led the shiva, and there was just a different cadence at Beth Emet. And in my head, I was trying to think which cadence we were doing, and I lost the Emanuel cadence for a minute. And I will say, I was listening to Daniela dance, so I'm talking about you. When I was young, I belonged to what they used to call in Chicago a traditional synagogue, and in that traditional synagogue, the children were mostly asked to be quiet. And asking children to be quiet doesn't usually work, right? It usually backfires. And my father in synagogue always sat next to our next door neighbor, who was an incredibly pious and incredibly generous person. And in that synagogue for years and years, he was known as the Candy Man. And the Candy Man in many conservative and Orthodox synagogues are usually men who have a pocket or a tallis bag full of candy. And if a kid can sit through services part way, then they'll get a piece of candy to help them sit through services more. And when anyone would complain about the children running up to get candy, he would give them candy and smile as big as he could and say to everyone else that if we don't keep the children in the sanctuary, then where will we expect the children to be? Right? And so I'm always pleased when children of all ages are here and welcomed, because then we know that they'll continue to come back. Okay, we are about to begin our Torah service. Our Torah service begins on page 362, and I'm going to ask you all to rise. Thank you. All right, to the top of the page. Ein kamocha ba'Elohim Adonai, ve'ein k'ma'asecha, malchutecha malchut kol olamim, u'memshaltecha bechol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai oz le'amo yiten, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Av harachamim hetiva birtzoncha et Zion. Ki chomat Yerushalayim tibne Yerushalayim. Ki vecha levad batachnu. I always take it out here. Melech el ram v'nisa adon olamim. 364. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, u'devar Adonai miYerushalayim. Page 366. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. O Yisrael, b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael, Gadlu l'Adonai iti, u'neromema shemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai hagedula v'hagevura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod. Ki chol b'shamayim uvat, ki chol b'shamayim uvaret. Lecha Adonai hamamlacha v'hamit na'aseh lechol l'rosh. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, haolam omen. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, haolam omen. Ve'al ha'avodah, ve'al gemilut chasadim, al ha'torah, ve'al ha'avodah, ve'al gemilut chasadim. So I'm going to give you a hint as to this Torah portion by telling a joke that was a favorite of my nephew's about 25 years ago. The joke goes something like this. So, two muffins are in an oven. One muffin turns to the other muffin and says, "Whew, is it hot in here?" The other one says, "Ah, a talking muffin." My nephew told that joke so many times that I don't laugh at it anymore, but that is that's my hint at the Torah portion. So the Torah portion this week is, well, I have to say that when we translate it in polite company, we say that it's a talking donkey, but it is really not a talking donkey because Hebrew has a different word for donkey than it does for this particular animal whose name we don't use in polite company. This Torah portion is Balak. In the Torah portion of Balak, there are two main characters. Well, there are three main characters. One doesn't have a name. There's Balak and Balaam. And Balak says to Balaam, go curse the Israelites. And at first, Balaam is like, no, not going to do it. No, thank you, not going to do it. Then he sends lots of dignitaries and lots of money. And Balaam says, you know what, I still can't do it. I can't do what God doesn't say. God whispers in his ear, he says, tell you what, go. Totally fine, go. It's okay with me. Here's the story. You can only say what I tell you to say. Fine. So he goes. And then we pick up the story. We are in, let's see, Numbers chapter 22. Hold on. Let's find it. Okay, right now me and my Roman numerals aren't cooperating there very well. All right. What? Page 915, thank you. Except that we are reading from, reading from a little bit later. Okay, we are reading from page 918, verse 28. Okay, usually we do this communally. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach. Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. So you should know that right before what I'm about to read, Balak and the donkey have been walking down the road with an entire entourage, and the donkey keeps stopping. At one point, right before this, and the reason the donkey keeps stopping is because an angel, known as Hasatan, the adversary, is standing in the way. And the donkey can see it. And at one point, right before this happens, the angel is standing in such a place that the donkey has no place to go and pushes itself into a wall, and by doing so, crushes Balaam into the wall, and he doesn't like it. And he starts to hit the donkey. As a matter of fact, it's the third time that he has beaten the donkey. So, Vayiftach Adonai et pi ha'aton, and God opened the mouth of the donkey. Va'tomer leBalaam, and he said to Balaam, Ma'asita lecha ki hachitani zeh shalosh regalim. What did you do to me? Why are you doing this to me, that you beat me 3 times? Vayomer Balaam liton, and Balaam said la'aton. Balaam said to the donkey, ki hit alalti vi, because you embarrassed me. Lo yeshcherev biyado ki ata harogatecha. He said, it's a good thing that I don't have a sword in my hand, or I would kill you. Va'tomer ha'aton el Balaam, and the donkey said to Balaam again, hello, anochi atonecha, I'm your donkey. Asher rachavta alai meodecha, you've ridden me a lot, ad hayom hazeh, you have ridden me a lot today. Haschin haschanti la'asot lecha. Like, how could you do this to me? Vayomer lo, vayigal Adonai et einai Balaam, and God opened Balaam's eyes. Vayar et malach Adonai nitzav baderach, and Balaam saw the angel of God standing in the middle of the road, v'chervo shlafa biado, and there was he was holding a sword high up in his hand. Vayikad v'yishtachu la'afav, vayomer elav malach Adonai, the angel said to him, Alma hakita et itontecha zeh, why did you hit this donkey? Shalosh regalim, 3 times. Hine anochi yitzati l'satan. So I was the one who was here as the adversary. Ki yiret haderech linegdi. I was the one who was standing in the way, stopping you. Hold on. Okay. Oops. Here we go. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. I haven't seen this Torah this far in the scroll in a while, and it's, at this point in the scroll, you can see a different pattern in the hide. Earlier in the scroll, it's very clear and very white, and at this point, you can really see what looks like an animal. We are going to stop for a moment in our service and recite the prayer for healing. Mishaberach can be found on page 371. Before we recite the prayer, we will call out the names of all of those in our congregation upon whom we're wishing healing this evening. I'll start with our Mishaberach list, and then if there's anyone upon whom you're wishing healing, please feel free to add those names. Tonight we lift up the names of Aviva Eliza, Laura Kina Aronson, Joan Bronsfeld, David Burchett, Fegasora Bat Chaya, Sarah Chana Bat Elisheva, Stephen Engelman, Eslyn Garb, Phyllis Goldblatt, Don Grandolfo, Leah Jones, Carl Colbin, Jeffrey Krause, Helena Krisick, Miriam Lyon, Gerald Marks, Eileen McNichols, Jimmy Miller, Sharon Montessori Garskoff, Irene Noperstack, Lois Pavilon, Gary Priest, Rich Reisman, Ellen Sanger, Casey Ciengo, Christian Rouse Skinner, Tali Stein, Cameron Michael Taft, Avram Ben Sivia, Yosef Raphael Ben Yehudit. Are there any names or people upon whom you're wishing healing this evening? Yeah, any from our friends on Zoom?
Yes, we have Wayne Hansen, Louis Bonsignor, Lincoln Davis, Kai Arkin, Becky Hanscom, and Leigh Hanscom.
Great. We lift up all of their names along with those who we keep in our hearts as together we sing Mishaberach, page 371. Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Devorah, I'm going to ask you to come back up so that we can return the Torah to the ark. If you'll all please rise when we get The Torah addressed will be on page 374. Thanks. Page 374. Hodo al eretz v'shamayim vayarem keren li'amo tila lechol chasidav livnei Yisrael am kerovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Etzayim hilem achazikim ba v'tom cheha meusha deracheha darchenoam v'chol netivoteha shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva hadesh hadesh menu hadesh yamenu kekadam. So just a few words. You can be seated. So I told the joke because in the joke, the muffin is surprised. And here we are on a road in the Holy Land, and an animal starts talking. Balaam just talks back, like they've had this conversation 100 times. And it's fascinating to think about what they might have been thinking about. Either Balaam was so stressed out because he had to, he was given a charge that he knew he couldn't follow, right? Either Balaam was mind was turning so fast about what will I do when they ask me to go against God's will, that when a donkey started talking, he didn't even notice, right? Or there's the other possibility that people in the time that story occurred were just so used to miraculous things happening all the time that it just happened. Right? But to me, the thing that is the important lesson is something the donkey says and something that the angel says, right? The donkey basically says, like, look it, I've been your donkey this whole time, right? You've been riding me all day. You know me. Why didn't you notice? Right? And the angel says the same thing. So the angel was there the entire time, right? 3 different times the angel moves in front of the donkey. And Balaam is so deep into his own stuff that he doesn't see the angel, right? And it says, God opened his eyes, right? Which is kind of, it's interesting biblically because to me it's very much like when we talk about at Passover, God hardened Pharaoh's heart, right? God opened his eyes, God hardened Pharaoh's heart. In both of those cases, God didn't change someone. God allowed someone to do what they were meant to do, right? God opened up the space so people could be true to their own spirit, right? Pharaoh wasn't a nice guy. So God said, hey, why don't you look at yourself for a minute? Oh, my heart really is hard, right? God opened up Balaam's eyes, allowed him to clear his mind and see that there were interesting, miraculous things in front of him. So I guess that one of the things that I've been thinking about lately, one of the things that I occupy my time with during the school year, I teach a lot, right? Come September, I will have many, many hours busier than I do now, right? And so I've been thinking a lot in my time that's a little bit less busy. You know, it's easier for me to notice the dishes piling up in my sink, not to do anything about it, to notice it. But also, my mind has the space in it to see the angel in front of me, right? To see that the dog that bothers me a lot of the time is also a blessing because she gets me out of the house, right? So I think that the bit, you know, what comes from this Torah portion that we all know is at the end of the Torah portion where Balaam is supposed to curse, right? The Jewish people. Instead, he says, Matovu ohalecha Yaakov. How amazing are your dwelling spaces, O Israel. And we use that in our prayers, but I think that for me the message is get out of your head. You know, we're so in our heads all the time that we can't see the amazing things that are standing right in front of us. Shabbat shalom. All right, we are going to finish our service. We are on the home stretch. We're going to begin to conclude our service on page 586 with Aleinu. All right, we are at the bottom of the page. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'tei gedula li'yotzei breshit, shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, shehu noteh shamayim ve'yoser haaretz, u'moshav yekaro b'shamayim lima'al, u'shchinatu zo b'gavhei meromim, hu Eloheinu einod, emet malkeinu efes ulato, Atuv b'torato, v'yadata hayom v'ashevota el levavecha, ki Adonai hu Elohim, b'shamayim mima'al, v'al haaretz mitachat ein od. Page 591. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo You can be seated for a moment. Page 592. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands and letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. We share the yahrzeit list for this week. In recent days, we have lost to the congregation Eileen Rothman and Marcus Maris. The following people have yahrzeits this week: Warren Arnold, Efim Bogad, Rose Bush, Ida Cohen, Sarah Fagan, Seymour Friedman, Miriam Garb, Phyllis Goodman, Maurice Gordon, David Cahan, Lawrence Kasikoff, David Levin, Rudy Mayer, Ruth Berman Milovets, DeWitt Porter Jr., Emil Posen, Felix Salier, David Schley, Harriet R. Silverstein, Morris Snyder, Joseph Solomon, Ethel Solomon, Solomon Top, Roby Emil Robichek Wayne, and Irving Wallach. If there are others' names that you wish to add right now, please do. The mourners in our congregation have risen. If you choose, please rise with them in one community as we say the mourners' Kaddish together. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'emru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam Olamei Omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei Dekudisha Abrichu. Le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alma v'emru Amen. Yehei Shlam Rabbah min Shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to all of us, to all Israel, and to all that suffer across the world, as together we say, Amen. You can be seated. I'm taking requests from the congregation today for a closing song. Anyone have something that they're really feeling? All right. All right, hold on. You know what? Just because it's so lovely to be together, we'll close with Hine Matov. We're connected, Ruthie. If only I'd let my hair go gray. Page 644. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Tov shevet achim gam yachad, אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם yachad. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for the harmony. Shabbat Shalom.